Good afternoon. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Anthony Anderson here. And hopefully you should be able to hear my audio at this point. Shortly, I'm sure you will be able to see my video, which looks like it's coming up slowly, as well as see my computer screen. There we are. What's up, everyone? Hope you're doing well here. What are we at? March 27th. This is our Wednesday afternoon group Q&A call. Jim Barnes, thank you for confirming. Kate Seastone, great to see you on here as well. Kate, are you coming out in a couple weeks? I think the plan was for you to come on out to the Advisor Academy. I'll talk about that in a minute. Who else is on the line this afternoon that wants to say hello? Go ahead and type into the chat box. Bob Coleman is here. Awesome. What's up? There we go. John, great to have you here. Jack, awesome. Great to see you on. David, hi from LA. Stephen, wonderful. Jay, yo. Man, look at this. All right, we got some activity this afternoon already. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Stephen, thank you. Good. Helen, wonderful to have you on too. Another John, and this is your first call. Great to have you on. Thanks for being here for your first call. Anybody else on the line for the first time? Like to see new names and try to get a little bit familiar with who's joining the program here. John Norden calling in from Honolulu. Man, I love Hawaii. If it wasn't for my family in San Diego, I would have moved to Hawaii probably many surf sessions ago. Nice, Jack. I see your comment as well regarding the CPA firm. Cool. I look forward to looking into that. Very good. Well, thank you everyone for being here. I'm excited you are. There's, let's see, not too much going on my side that I want to give you an update on prior to jumping into the Q&A. Mostly just want to make sure everybody is aware of the Elite Advisor Academy that is coming up in a couple weeks out in San Diego. So all you need to do to find out more information about it is go to elitert.com/training. There's the Elite Advisor Academy right there. Click on that to find out more. There'll be a form there. You can request more information and some general information about that. And then in June, we do have that Elite Tax Planning Academy as well. Both of those are really good events, honestly. Look what I got on my desk here in front of me. We are going through and making a bunch of updates to the appendix, to the training manual, creating some new scripting for meeting number 3, and a couple of documents we've been working on. So we're going to have these available for everybody who comes out in person to the Elite Advisor Academy coming up in a couple weeks. And if you are attending the live stream and paying to attend the live stream, we'll mail those out to you as well as a bunch of other stuff. So looking forward to seeing a number of people in person here. All right, let's take a look. What questions do we have today? Go ahead and just type into the chat box there any questions you have about the training, working with CPAs, any specific strategies you would like to discuss, and I'll just start chipping away at them as they come through here. All right, Kate confirming you're coming out. Jack, give me a couple minutes and I am optimistic that I'll get to unmute your line here maybe towards the second half of the call. And then we can talk through that message that you're referencing regarding the CPA firm doing 6.5 million a year, 2 partners, and that's a good profile. Stephen, I'm trying to understand your question here. Advisor CIQ. Stephen, go ahead and type into the chat box there what your question is. Client is selling business assets, aggregate real estate. So the Client Information Questionnaire, or the CIQ for short, is almost always almost always without exclusion going to be where we suggest you start collecting the information, right? The key thing as we take a step back and you look at the training overall is what we're trying to build is a system or process. So every client or prospect of ours and every client or prospect of the CPAs should ultimately be going through a structure that looks very similar. And we control that input, we control the process, and then we get predictable results or output. So the CIQ is definitely where you want to start. Okay, she filled out the CIQ, but the results were missing things. Yeah, the opportunity report is certainly not all-encompassing, I should say. So there will be some things that might be a strategy or an opportunity that don't show up on the opportunity report. That's okay. Opportunity report and the CIQ is really just an opportunity to begin the conversation with a client or prospect of yours or a client and prospect of the CPAs, and to kind of open up that dialogue about, broadly what their circumstance is, what concerns they have, what potential planning opportunities they and we should be aware of. So the best thing you could do, Stephen, is just send the CIQ and the opportunity report together to support@elitert.com and send those in one email. If you can redact their name, that's ideal, meaning use PDF editor and delete the name so that way we don't show it on the screen. If you can't do that, you can send it over to us. We'll do it on our side as long as we have ample time before. But Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m. is when we go over those CIQs. Let's see here. Helen, I'm looking for the two charts that show the difference between the CPA model and the referral and team-based model. Yeah, no problem. Happy to give you some direction on that. So if you just go to teambasedmodel.com, obviously that's going to be housing the portal there. Hopefully everybody's familiar with that. Click on My Library in the top right-hand corner. The training module that you're referring to is the 2.0. And then once you're there, the quickest way to find something is to use this little search. See this little magnifying glass in the top left-hand corner? If you click on that, then this little search box is going to come up, and this is going to search through anything within this portal. So, oops, you can search by any of the keywords, and let's see here. So this is going to point out where it is. Looks like it's in week 5. You could either click on it right there, or you can go to week 5. Let's see. And Christy, feel free to type in if you know off the top of your head where that third-party referral model versus team-based model is. I believe it is, here you go, found it. So it's right here under the second tab, meeting number 1, script and talking tool. You can see you can download your third-party referral versus TVM email version. Just click on that. It will take you to a downloadable PDF file there, and then you can download that. And I would suggest, rather than printing it out yourself, send it to like an Office Depot or a Kinko's, FedEx, anything like that, $5 or less, and you can have them printed out on 80-pound paper. That's what I like. It's just a little bit thicker. And if you really want to get fancy, you can even laminate it. And here, right here is the instructions for printing. Even though it says talking tool, it's the same exact thing for the email version of this document as well. It will give you the pound paper that you want, full bleed, color, and yep, you're welcome. And you can usually just either, if you've never used a printer before, just call them and get the email address that you need to send it to, or put it on like a thumb drive and then bring it in there in person. All right. Let's see here. Yep, So Stephen, we can go over that client information questionnaire on Thursday at 2 p.m. No problem. Tom, hey Anton, if we get some positive response to the presentation, yep, I know what you're referring to. What can we email to the prospects? You know, I saw your email, Tom, and I know you CC'd Michael on that as well. I just need to loop back with him and see what he would prefer in that circumstance. So we will, one of us will, or both of us will circle back with you. I will say by tomorrow midday. How about that? All right. David, sorry, this is a long one. Sent out preliminary survival kits after waiting for shipment from China. Oh, many fans to 30 CPAs with a note. Hope this helps when things start getting heated up. I like it. Clever. Got 3 responses. 2 want to talk after the 15th. 1 wanted to know what I'm looking for. I responded, I'm looking to find out more about the services for business owners. We'll be sending and delivering follow-up tax and survival kits next week using Andy's referral. Any thoughts or suggestions? Yeah, David, so you said 30. So those numbers are a little bit low. Basically, 3 responses is a little low. And the only thing I would suggest is make sure that you also, what everybody, just in case you're not familiar with what he's referring to, is in week 2, where we talk about the lumpy mail and tax and survival kits, you'll actually see we give you not only a video on this, but also the templated letters that you can use depending on the time of the year, and then the follow-up as well. So make sure you're using this. Let me just ask, are you using this follow-up sequence? There's 4 emails. There are also suggestions about connecting on LinkedIn and connecting on Facebook. Did you use this? David, if you could just type it in there, let me know. Oh, you plan to. Okay. In that case, then I'm not concerned. So you had 3 people respond just by dropping them off. That's fine. That's not low. Really, the first time we're making a touch, you know, even if I got 0 responses out of 30, I'm not that concerned, because 1 is it's tax season. 2 is it's just an introduction. Really, where the magic starts to happen is by doing the follow-up communication. So what you want to do, look at this document here as it will walk you through it, but you can see right here, LinkedIn request them, friend request them, and then once you are connected on LinkedIn or Facebook, you can send this message through Facebook or through LinkedIn. Otherwise, if you're not connected or you don't use either of those, just send them an email and you have the text right here. So it's a sequence of 4 follow-up emails. Now, right now is a little bit of a unique time because we're at the end of March. So I would say be gentle in your follow-up at this point. If it was me, I would just do 1 follow-up rather than 4 at this point. When you go and drop off your next package of 30, I would do that the last week of tax season, so like somewhere between the 10th to probably the 13th. And then I would wait until the 17th, and then I would start that 4 email sequence follow-up. And ultimately, out of those 30, really what you should be seeing is probably 15 people to communicate back to you, 10 of which are willing to get together. And really out of those 10, again, if we follow the numbers, we should be ending up with between 1 to 3 relationships from those original 30. Okay? David, I meant to get those preliminary kits out soon after the January event, but it took a little while longer to get the items. Yeah, it's probably no harm at this point. So ultimately, what we're looking for, to give some context to everybody on the line, is really fast forward to like the last week of April. And the ideal scenario is now we've researched, informed our list of 30 ideal CPA potential partners. And again, try not to just blast this off to any accountant. You want to make sure from what you can see via their website and via LinkedIn, they look like a potential good fit for you, a good partner. I'd rather you use only 20 tax season survival kits than blast out to 50 people, but not do any specific research on them first. So ideally, we've got our list of 30. We've done one tax season survival kit already. We've done one tax season survival kit the end of tax season. We've friend requested them on Facebook. We've connected with them on LinkedIn, and then we start the email sequence to follow up. And so by the time they communicate with you, it's like Facebook request, LinkedIn request, tax season survival kit. Oh, that was nice. Wow, another tax season survival kit. Wow, that's really nice. And then they start seeing the emails. So it's just name recognition and positive association, and also breaking the assumption that they already know kind of who you are and what you do. That's it. And then we're looking for the meetings post-tax season. And I see you said you already did a little bit of research on each of them. So you might get as high as 15 meetings out of that initial group of 30. Okay, perfect. Stephen, I see your question and I see your comment that I already answered it, given my comment right now. But let me just go ahead and I'm going to read it out loud, Stephen, just in case other people on the line are wondering the same thing. Stephen said, should I try to engage the CPAs now or should I wait until after tax season? Maybe just introductions. Is there a template for the CPA I can email the client that the client can use to make the introduction? I don't want to harm the relationship from the get-go. I was thinking about getting the introductions and sending the tax season. Okay. Yep. So hopefully I addressed that, but the key thing there is don't expect to form a new relationship right now, but you can use things to start opening up that door towards a positive relationship post-tax season. Tax season survival kits are the best way to do that. The other thing there that you alluded to, Stephen, is a warm introduction from a current client. And yes, not sure how far you are in the training, but you'll see in week 4, one of the tabs is contacting accountants. And under that video, there is a document called the top 9 ways to generate CPA introductions. One of those ways is through warm clients, and we have that templated out for you. So the first one there, your current clients, that's templated out. So what you're going to look to do is send your client an email. That client is going to email the CPA with this template. They're going to CC you, and then you're just simply going to follow up from that email and use some language like, you know, in this example, let's say the client's name is Jill. Jill, thank you for the introduction. Stephen, I look forward to connecting. How's, April 19th, given it's tax season, how's April 19th at 12 o'clock at Lion Share for lunch, or whatever restaurant is nearby the CPA's firm. Okay, so there's the follow-up. So all that is templated out for you there. All right. I'm connected to many business owners, clients/friends, and when I intro the new value prop, they are all very warm to it and will introduce me to their CPA. Is there a template CPA intro? I can email the client that the client can use to introduce me, maybe forward to the CPA. Yep, so there you go. That you are more than welcome. Yep, and that's in week 4 under contacting CPAs. All right, and remember, just big picture here, what the 5-step process is that we're going through, and you'll see this really laid out in week number 4, 5, and 6 is first step, identify the ideal type of CPAs. Requires a little bit of, digging, like David was referring to here. He identified 30 ideal CPAs. Then the next step is contacting the CPAs. Once you contact them, then the next step is the 3rd step, which is engaging with them, having those meetings, and all that is scripted out in week 5 for you. Meeting number 1, meeting number 2. We're actually working on a meeting number 3 script right now. And that's just kind of the follow-up, the next steps. And then the 4th step is monetizing that relationship. And then the 5th one is just maintaining that relationship. Other questions? I see a couple here. Let's see. All right, Jack, I see your comments. Let me go ahead, Jack, and unmute your line. And we can talk through that CPA firm you're referring to. Give me a second here, my friend. And then keep the questions coming as well as I'm discussing this situation or question with Jack. Let me know what other questions. Hey, right underneath Jack, I see is Jason. And I think, Jason, I just happened to overhear Carmen say you were speaking with Ryan or signed up to come out to the Elite Advisor Academy a couple weeks. So I look forward to seeing you there. Jack, what's up, man? How are you?
Doing well. How are you, Andy?
Life is good, my friend.
So this firm that it's kind of interesting. They're kind of a regional firm, but they've really only got two partners, and they've got about 1,000 clients they advise, and they bill about $6.5 million. So they're doing so much more than just accounting. I mean,
yeah, no, with 1,000 clients at $6.5 million, that's a pretty good.
And just a couple guys, I kind of connected with them on social media. They've got a big presence, they've got a huge following, and this guy's kind of a millennial. You know, he knows Andrew Argue, and he says their goal is to make Andrew Argue look like yesterday's news. And I'm like, I asked him about,
ambitious.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, they want to grow to 15 to 20 million in the next 3 years. And what's fascinating is they're actually linking arms with an old colleague of mine that I was mentored under, who he primarily does, showing people how to use overfunded, properly structured life insurance. And so he's about to engage in them, which is it's a great strategy for some, but it's a hard thing for many that make money in real estate or equities and everything to just go all in life insurance. You know, it's
sure.
And so I had a good 2-year run with my mentor, but what kind of separated, that's when I kind of was starting to look for you all and ran across you guys and, like your message better about how to really equip the CPA. So I'm kind of cautious that he's going down the path where it's only going to be one way versus a myriad of options, that he could bring to his clients to, if they quote unquote don't want to get completely off the radar screen from the IRS using, that properly structured life insurance concept. So we're just engaging. I mean, we've been talking. We got a meeting set up on the 2nd of May, a Zoom, and I'm pretty excited about it. Really going to discover more about him, and he's going to discover the process and see where it goes. I mean, he's not even in my community. He's, several thousand miles away, but
nice.
Yeah.
So you're speaking with one of the two partners?
Yeah.
Are they doing outsourced CFO work?
Yes.
That's because I was just doing the math. The average client is $6,500, and that's unique to be able to do 1,000, to have 1,000 clients and do 6.5 million. So it's typically either outsourced CFO work at that kind of revenue, or they're really heavy in the value-based billing space, or they're really heavy in the life insurance. And
I'll send you the link to the company. I'm not real comfortable just sharing the name of the entity.
Yeah. That's why I asked in concept. But let me ask you this: Are they licensed right now? Either of the partners?
I don't know that. We really first talked yesterday. We've been playing. We've been dancing a little bit for about 3 months. They sponsored a big. I don't know how much you know about Grant Cardone.
Yeah, were they at his 10X conference?
Yeah, they're real big involved in that,
Sure.
So it's
amazing.
He told me the growth in his business went from about $1 million to $6.5 million in 2 years.
So, and are they working primarily virtually with clients?
A little of both, but they're trying.
Interesting.
They're getting into the marketing with clients. I mean, they're doing stuff that it's really fresh and cutting edge. And and look, I don't want to say anything bad about my prior mentor. I learned a lot, but what I also learned was you got to kind of meet people with where they're at, you know? And he
Well,
was,
I mean, yeah, I used to do some of what you're referring to as well in terms of when I was working more so in the life insurance space.
right.
And I mean, there's some scenarios where I think, that works great. But there's also, if you have clients that the average client is paying 6,500, that means some are paying, 60 grand and some are paying 2 grand probably. There's going to be a lot of other plan and opportunity that's outside of cash value life insurance.
Yeah, and
So,
that's what my thought was. I mean, I had $1 million worth of premium was my portion, 50%, so 2 million and zero of it funded. And
huh,
and that's when I left that group a couple years ago. And I mean, we wrote a ton. We wrote probably 5 million of premium in 2 years that I was in the group, and we did well. It was exceptional. I learned a lot, but I also learned what not to be. And
sure.
this gentleman really prescribes to the challenger sale mentality, which is great. I mean, I love the concept, but you got to also meet people with where they're at, and and so it didn't always end graciously, let's just say,
Yeah, fair enough.
and it left a lot of bad taste in my community. I still got these guys I can go back to through their CPAs. So I'm excited. This guy's engaged. They want to learn more. They're open. I'm concerned that he's going to hook up with this other entity and go down this path. But if he chose to do it, so be it, right? I mean, it doesn't mean we
Well,
still.
but and also I wouldn't though see it as mutually exclusive necessarily. I mean, so, you know,
But
what
their
he's
language
just,
is very strong, meaning no qualified plans
of
whatsoever.
course,
You
of
know,
course.
it, it's
But
it's it,
here's the thing. Basically, they're coming in with a tool, and we can argue all day on whether it's the best tool or the worst tool or a good tool or not a good tool. But really, a good accountant doesn't buy into that. A good accountant says, look, there's pros and cons to every strategy, to every investment, to every tool.
yeah,
And so, two partners that are running a $6.5 million firm, what I would communicate to them is, well, okay, that's great. Like, there's pros and cons to that, and actually, I'm very familiar with that. And so, if you want to have a side conversation about the pros and cons of that tool, that's fine. But I'm sure you're not assuming that all of your clients are going to benefit from, or that like this one tool is going to solve all of your clients' problems. For two partners to be running a firm at 6.5 million with 1,000 clients, the opportunity is, how are we offering them more comprehensive and more proactive planning to address their clients' needs? And cash value life insurance might address one of many different needs, but it's just one tool. And
right,
so overall, these guys have a massive opportunity that they're sitting on.
yeah,
And I think, like, in turn, you have a big opportunity if you can help them understand that, really the objective should be, let's take a step back and better understand the client problems and how to solve the client problems.
yeah,
So that's kind of where I would go with that conversation, is like, it sounds like you guys are knocking out of the park, and you're clearly ambitious to be referencing blowing by Andrew Argue.
yeah.
But tell me, what isn't working well right now? What areas do you see that you could bring additional value to your clients? What problems do your clients have that right now you haven't adequately addressed, or you haven't had a solution for?
Yeah.
Those are the kind of like questions I would be asking to dig at, rather than like even get engaged with,
Yeah, that
you know,
tennis match.
this
Yeah, that,
other guy. I mean, this other guy is like, you're like, okay, that's just noise. Like, let's talk about the real stuff as business owners.
yeah, good. That's really good. I'm reading this
I
book
just,
right now about real powerful questions to ask. I was reading
yeah,
away on a ship, and that's so good. And that's what we really spoke about yesterday. I just kind of, talked about how well they've done and what were the problems. And they said, well, we've got a myriad of people, either startups or, guys that are established or guys that are transitioning. So we've got a myriad of problems. So, you're right. And I guess there's a lot of folks that believe that one vehicle will solve every problem, and it just won't.
No one vehicle will.
Yeah.
I mean, and no one training program will, and no one advisor will. It's always, it's always a combination of a team. That's just, there's way too many moving pieces, and things are way too complex for any one specialist or any one tool to be kind of a one-stop.
Right. It's really process versus product. Even though they say that is a process, it's more of a selling method to indirectly get to that, which is and it's a great tool. Don't get me wrong, and I'm a big believer, and I put a lot of my own money in it, but I really started, really thinking through this as we've engaged, and even doing tax season survival kits and everything else. Do you think it would be worthwhile to go ahead and probably send him something real fat and nice for tax season survival kit, even though he's thousands of miles away? Yeah.
Yeah, why not? I mean, you don't have to go overboard, but a nice gesture, especially if you can loop it into something you've seen that they like on Facebook or LinkedIn, or came up in your conversation. An example, if you're doing a Zoom meeting and you happen to see that somebody has a photo of them playing golf or something like that,
Big golfers. Yeah, they're big golfers.
There you go. Buy some real nice high quality balls that they'll be excited about, and a dozen tees or something, and send that out with a note. I mean,
message, right? Looking forward to helping your clients. See if we can align to keep them in the fairway or something like that.
Yeah, I like it. There you go. Yeah, I mean, it just shows you're paying attention and you're focused on the relationship rather than just trying to sell something. But I had a conversation either earlier this week or late last week with a CPA that one of our partners knows well, so that it's a friendship, which is kind of why we ended up getting on the phone. And somewhat similar, they've got probably a little less clients, but they're doing around 4 million a year. It's two business partners, and we started talking about the model, and he's like, the reality is we know very little about tax planning. I mean, I think our clients think we do, but I know very little, and I know I'm an advanced CPA. I mean, my company's doing 4 million a year. These companies that are doing like $500,000 a year, those CPAs, I mean, I know twice as much as them, and I'm admitting to you, I know very little about advanced tax planning. So if I had a team behind me to help me, especially some of my best clients, that would be hugely valuable for us. So
one of the guys I interviewed on their show on this live stream, I mean, I did some homework on the client. The guy's, it's a third generation business. He's building about a $40 million golf course. I mean, it's like crazy stuff. And a guy young, I went to the same college, and we've connected, and it's just, it's pretty, they're a pretty dynamic group, and I don't want to blow it, I mean, I don't want to blow it with, and so I'd reach out and I asked you, would you ever even be open to doing a virtual Zoom? I know that's not your model per se, but in a size like this, would you be open to it?
Are you asking me?
Yes, sir.
Someone on my team would. Okay. I can't commit to me doing it.
Yeah.
But let me know. Shoot me a note with the name of the firm, just in case I happen to already know them.
Yeah.
And then I can talk through kind of, if you get to that level, what kind of, help we might be able to give you.
Good. I'm excited though. I mean, we haven't quote unquote engaged with any yet CPAs, but we've put about 40 tax season survival kits out, about 4 or 5 saying they're ready, but we just got to work out the details of that they're going to, be a good partner to follow through on, what the model is going to look like.
Good. Yeah, I mean, it's all the process. So, that sounds very promising. And out of those 4 or 5 that say they're ready, ultimately what probably will happen is 2 or 3 will actually take action and, put the money where the mouth is in terms of actually starting to work on some joint clients together. And 2 or 3 will just have good intentions, but they won't follow through. They won't pull through for you. So, I mean, that's a really strong place to start, post tax season and the summer push.
Well, it's exciting, and I think y'all have something very special. Like I said, I mean, coming out of that other group, which I learned a tremendous amount, and I also learned a tremendous amount of not what to do. And you guys just seem to have a real good process to. And what's happened now, it's very interesting. Since I've joined this group, I got two large firms, regional firms, that are wanting to engage with me and have me do joint work with
Yeah.
all the people, kind of in this description of being a team-based model consultant.
Yeah.
So we need to talk offline just about how to structure that, Anton, because that could be very lucrative as well for all parties.
Yeah. Very good, man. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I appreciate what you're saying in terms of the process is good and we've put a lot of work into it. But the reality is too, it's not like it's rocket science. It's just understanding the niche enough to identify what their problems are. And then rather than talking about any other noise or salesmanship or anything, just
Yeah,
talk about what their problems are and what the solutions to those problems are. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, they want to work with me? Interesting. Okay. Well,
yeah,
let me make sure that the partnership's set up correctly and I'm really focused on the right ones. And that's why I said out of those 4 to 5 that are saying they want to work with you,
right.
the best thing you can do is just give all 4 or 5 your energy until it becomes clear, okay, these 2 or 3 are the actual rock stars that I'm going to build the relationship with. These 2 or 3 I'm just dumping energy into, and they have to sit on the bench. You need to focus on the rock stars because 2 or 3 is more than enough opportunity in relationships.
And it's funny you say that. You said in the training that some people will just get the ahas. I mean, you're right. There's a couple of them of the five that have just had the ahas. And, right before Mardi Gras here in New Orleans, which is a busy time, I mean, I met the guy for lunch and, we didn't get into all the details in the second meeting other than just building a relationship. And he goes, I already get the model that you talked about. I just need to get through tax season and we're going to do a lot of good stuff together. We just got to work out the details. And I said, absolutely, Jeff. It's quite freeing actually to know now potentially I won't have to be in any more convincing business, and I can just be in the relationship business.
Well said, my friend.
So thank you, and I'll shoot you the details on the firm and see if somebody would be interested in engaging with these guys. I already got a meeting set up on the 2nd of May.
Love it, man. Good stuff.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jack.
Appreciate
Yep.
you.
Yep, my pleasure. All right, let's see here. Other questions? Whoop. What did I do? Jeremy, hey, I just signed up. Should I go through all 8 weeks before I start reaching out to the CPAs? Or at which point in the training should I start? Thank you. So if it was me, I would not wait to go through all 8 weeks. You'll see as you're going through, especially week 4, 5, and 6, at the end of each of those training videos, there will be some kind of homework and some direction on what you should start doing. So there's definitely activity that you can and should be beginning and putting in place as you're going through that process, Jeremy. And some of the weeks, like for example, let's just take a look at the portal here. So some of the weeks, like week 7 is probably the best example. It's really not even designed to get through the entire week because the reality is it's a library for you of planning strategies from very simple strategies to, or maybe not simple, but more well-known in terms of the traditional financial advisor or insurance agent, to some of the more complex strategies and thought leadership discussions. So, if you were to try to sit down and go through all of these training videos, it would be probably, 8 weeks worth of material just there. So just know if there are strategies that you're hearing us discuss while you're on one of these calls, or you're using the CIQ and a strategy comes up and you're not familiar with it, go into week 7 because there's a really good chance that we've already recorded a training video in week 7 that you can go ahead and take a look at. Other questions? Questions about the training, about any CPA, situations, tax season, different specialists you want to discuss, or client scenarios? Question about the CIQ and where that fits in. Okay, so the CIQ stands for Client Information Questionnaire, right? The training on that is in week 3. So when you get into week 3, you'll see a couple different training videos as well as some template case studies and email scripts that you can send out. And then we will, every Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock Pacific, we do a CIQ review call. So you use the CIQ with your own clients, your prospects, or a CPA's clients, prospects. You get that back. You want us to help you review that and understand what opportunities exist. Send it over to support. Thursday afternoons, we go through them live. And then in terms of where it fits in, so in week 1, there is the flow chart. And you can look at this video at any point. This is some 20-minute video we put together to kind of help you understand the overall flow of the training. And then we also have this PDF document that you can access here. And this is good to have handy because, accountants are incredibly process oriented. They tend to be very detail oriented. And so it's helpful to provide them a little bit of context so they understand that this isn't just off the cuff stuff that we've come up with, but rather this is a truly refined system. And as a result, you position yourself as the leader of that relationship. So the first page here is just for you, helping you understand from when you join the program to what the different training is, having the meeting number 1, having the meeting number 2, and then the second page here is really for you, and you can share this with the CPA because it's all about setting them up with the CPA training account, the CPA Facebook group, the CPA CIQ, sending out the CIQs, getting them back, reviewing them internally, and going through the entire process here. So if you want to get more familiar with kind of that CIQ, how it fits into the process, take a look at this flowchart PDF, and I'd encourage you to print it out and have it here. Rob, what's up, man? Rob, if I'm not mistaken, did you just have a pretty big opportunity close? I think late last week. I think I've seen some strong opportunity that was being discussed there. And your question is late to the call today, and yes, wait. Late join today question. Any yes, no guidance on whether tax season survival push on a Saturday? Oh, that's an interesting question. Should you do a tax season survival kit push on a Saturday? Yeah, I think that's actually a good idea. I mean, probably 90+% of CPAs are going to be working on a Saturday during tax season. And most other professionals aren't. It kind of, most of them are a little bitter that they're working on a Saturday. So, something to kind of lighten the Saturday spirits. And most of their staff is going to be working too, by the way. So something to kind of lighten the Saturday spirits, I think is a good idea, actually. And it shows you're willing to kind of roll up your sleeves and do a little work on a Saturday too. So if it was me, I would probably do something like deliver, sandwiches to the office for lunch around 11:30. That way people haven't already left for lunch, or a nice tax season survival kit with, some snacks, Advil, something to kind of lighten that Saturday energy. Yep, there you go. You said, sadly, no, not me. Oh, wait, yes, succession planning opportunity did come alive. Forgot. Yeah, yeah, that looked good. Um, and you got some good CPA meetings. Nice, man. Happy to see that. I think it was like 50 to 80,000 on that opportunity. So that was a nice one. And Jeremy, what is the major do's and don'ts? Thank you. Major do's and don'ts. It's a relatively general question. I will answer it like this. Do's, anybody anybody who's been working in the model for more than 6 months and experienced any type of success will tell you follow the system as much as possible. Follow the system, follow the process, because as I think it was Jack that was just sharing with me, it's been refined. I mean, Ken and I, we started doing this 2010, something like that. Worked with CPAs ourselves for 4 or 5 years. Started the Elite Resource Team 2014, I want to say. And then we've now worked, thousands of people we've worked with. So as much as possible, just follow the system, follow the scripts, use the material that's been built. And then as far as don'ts, I guess the converse to that would be, don't feel like you need to reinvent the wheel. Don't feel like you need to create a unique value proposition, a new one for each advisor, or each client or each CPA or accountant that you speak to. The benefit of understanding a niche, and accountants are certainly a niche. The benefit of understanding a niche is once you understand that niche, you understand the problem that 95% of them face. Right now in the accounting industry, almost across the board, the problem is their revenue model is not designed very well, and their work-life balance is terrible. So if you look at the amount of time and energy and stress that by far the majority of them face compared to the income they make, it is completely out of whack. Another problem, there's way too much information for any one of them to become a master in individually. And so as a result, they really just get pushed into doing this compliance-based work because they're not experts enough themselves to truly be offering proactive and comprehensive advice. Not to the detriment or to blame any of them individually, but the reality is a jack of all trades is a master of none. So if they really look at their client value proposition and they ask themselves, would I be able to deliver more value to my clients if I had a team of advanced planning specialists that was working in conjunction with me? And together we were able to look at my client circumstances and identify ways to bring more value. Would I be able to do a better job for the clients? I'd be shocked if they have good clients and they were to say anything but yes, of course. A team would produce much better results. And a team doesn't just mean a CPA and an advisor, or a CPA and an insurance agent. A team means an attorney, a succession planning specialist, a business broker, an employee retention specialist. You go down the list of different specialists that really their client should have access to, right? So that would be my list of do's and don'ts there. Other questions? Still have a couple minutes if anybody else has any questions today. Questions on the training, anything else about events coming up here, or just any updates. Love to hear updates on how things are going, especially if you have experienced numbers, X number of contacts, follow-up meetings, whether they're positive, like you want to share some positive movement, or you're frustrated, you want to share any challenges that you've been having. Happy to tackle any of them. See a couple comments coming through. Getting some pushback to get back to us after 4:15, but we have a few that are very close to engaging. Yeah, I mean, right now it's what, March 27th. The reality is most of them are pretty deep now into tax season, and so they're getting a lot of pressure from clients to get that done. The other things that are unique to this year is, and if you don't know this, it's a good thing to be aware of, two things have significantly impacted accountants during this tax season. Actually, I'm going to ask this. Anybody on the line want to take a guess at what are the two major things that have made this tax season increasingly difficult for accountants? What are the two things? Rosa, changes in the tax law. Okay, so Jay, related to that, the new tax cut laws, section 199A. Yep, so we've got, I think there you go, Jim, what he's referring to is TICJA, Tax Cuts Job Act, right? Ah, nice, and then Dan got the other one, government shutdown. Yep, so we had two major things. One is all of the changes that were related to Trump's tax plan, Tax Cut Job Act. Some of those changes still aren't even really fully understood in terms of what forms they need to file. For example, cost segregation has had a number of changes that says, if in this circumstance, file this, and then this form is not even released yet. So yes, Tax Cut Jobs Act introduced a whole new ball of wax for them to understand, and then the other one is the government shutting down, and government shutdown / federal layoffs is what Robert commented there. Yeah, I mean, a lot of accountants are saying they're already a month behind where they were at last year at this time. Actually, one of the accountants that came out to the Elite Tax Planning Academy recently posted in the accountant Facebook group that he's working right now 7 days a week, averaging 80 hours a week, and he is losing his mind because he's a month behind where he was last year at this time. He's like, I just don't know where else I'm going to make up that time other than just filing extensions for 90% of my clients. And what do you think I said? What are we doing April 16th to make sure that next year's tax season, you're not in this same exact circumstance, right? It's like if you're complaining about the same problem you had last year and you didn't make any changes in the last 12 months, shame on you. And you know what really sucks? That CPA's clients are going to end up suffering as a result of that. 7 days a week, 80 hours a week, what happens? You know you're not doing as good of a job being comprehensive, being proactive as you could with those clients. You're just filing, get out, filing, do. So as a result, there's less proactive work being done. A couple more questions here. Okay. Dan is asking, what client profile would you consider too small to work with? It really just depends, Dan, on the individual advisor, what you enjoy working on, traditionally what your focus has been, and what you want that to look like moving forward. So for me, I really enjoy working with small business owners. I like when there's a lot of moving pieces. I like a lot of the advanced planning strategies that typically means somebody's going to be having to make north of $250,000 a year. But there's a lot of advisors in the program that, like, for example, we've got one guy who's a vet, and he doesn't only want to work with vets, but that's really where his heart's at. So, he loves working with vets, and you certainly can still do a lot of good planning for people that have lower incomes than that. We've got another guy who comes from a family of teachers, so he really likes that government employee space. So some of that is going to depend on the work you like doing, Dan. Kirk, I would think until you get things rolling, all you should be doing is marketing to CPAs. Yeah, personally, here's how I would approach it. You've got right now the business you're doing day to day to keep the revenue coming in. If you need help with marketing on those types of strategies, look in week 2 of the training portal. There's, what is it, like almost a dozen different marketing techniques that you can do directly to clients and prospects. All of this stuff in here. So that's one track that's generating revenue, that's keeping the lights on. And then simultaneously, the second track is building the relationships with the CPAs. And I totally agree with you. Until you're at 100% capacity with the CPA relationships and you've got those however many you need to hit your goals, typically it's 2 or 3, until those are firing and they're all rock stars, keep the CPA introductions coming, keep the new CPA relationships being built, keep the pedal keep the foot on the gas pedal. Because as I said to Jack, don't stop when you get 2 yeses, because the reality is one of those yeses in 6 months, they're not going to do squat. They're going to be excited, but they're not going to actually take action. So you want to get to the point where you got 4, 5, 6 that are excited to work with you, because that means in 6 months, 2, 3 of those are actually going to be producing serious fruit. And then the other ones, you could either bring on a sub-advisor under you to handle those relationships, or you just say, hey, I appreciate the relationship, but it looks like it's not something that's going to work out at this point. And I wish you the best. All right, Chris, how do I handle a situation of a person who has had some past experience with cost remediation and we're not happy with the time constraints it caused and the threat of charging before they would reveal the savings? I mean, okay, so just for anybody on the line, cost remediation is basically an expense audit. It's a way to go into a company, look at all of their major expenses, and then identify areas to reduce or renegotiate expenses. Oftentimes, our specialists statistically will go in and save 40% of the expenses. So if you got a company with $500,000 of expenses, we just wiped out what, 220, 230,000 of expenses. Then the opportunity is, now, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, we've just identified $230,000 of additional revenue you didn't plan on having. Let's talk about funding that buy-sell agreement. Let's talk about funding that retirement plan. Let's talk about funding that permanent life insurance high cash value plan that was referenced earlier. Whatever the plan is that they should be, we've identified the funding mechanism for that. But in this circumstance, how would you handle the circumstance? I mean, they were working with a bad specialist. That's the reality. And I would say something like, if somebody said that to me, I'm not interested in looking at cost remediation because I worked with a specialist once and they tried to charge me before they were going to tell me what the savings was. I'd say, wow, I'm not shocked to hear that, unfortunately, because I know there's a lot of shady quote unquote specialists out there. But I am frustrated for you. And it just really highlights, and this would be my dialogue, I'd say, and it just really highlights the importance of having a vetted, trusted team of top-notch national specialists who you can lean on to get anything done, whether it's cost remediation, or cost segregation, or employee benefits plans, or whatever it is. You can't trust everybody, unfortunately. I can tell you our cost remediation specialists will do a free report for you where they will analyze what savings they're able to identify and tell you exactly what the cost of that would be way before you would be expected to pay anything for it. So that's true with any of our specialists, just so you know. Any of the specialists will tell you what the savings are going to be and then what the costs are going to be, and the client gets to analyze both of those before making the commitment. Also, Chris, on the cost remediation specialist, just so you know, they don't actually charge the client out of pocket. What's pretty awesome about our cost remediation specialists is they literally only charge out of the savings. So the client doesn't even have to send them a check. So as an example, what they'll do is, let's say, for example, they're renegotiating let's say it's a trucking company, they're renegotiating the oil contract. We'll say, prior to this, you were paying $1.99 a gallon. We were able to get that down to $1.62 a gallon. every month, when you save that, whatever that split is, 199, 162, what is it, 37 cents or something, we will take a portion of that 37 cents. So they're not even coming out of pocket to pay. They're literally just paying out of the savings. Okay. Rosa, my personal challenge is how to present myself to CPAs because I don't have a business card for the company I'm working for. I feel that's hard to project credibility. Rosa, don't get hung up on that. Business cards, honestly, I haven't had a business card for like a year and a half. I think I still have some that are from our old company address. I've maybe handed out one to like a UPS driver that needed my phone number or something. I mean, don't even get hung up on business cards or website addresses. There's all types of things that you can develop once you have some activity. I wouldn't get the cart before the horse. I would focus on understanding the model and understanding the value proposition. And then where are you going to need a business card? Networking event, take their business card. Tell them you'll follow up with them. You know, don't worry about it. Just understand the model, the system, how to communicate value. All people really care about is, can you solve the problems that I'm facing? That's it. Can you solve the problems? Well, do you understand my problems first and foremost? And then can you solve those problems? So the more you can focus on that, Rosa, and feeling really confident in your ability to understand the problems, have the conversation, and solve the problems, the more confident you'll feel. But as soon as you start getting worried in your head about projecting credibility and not being credible, that's going to show through in your conversations. So like if I have a meeting and you have a meeting and I don't have a business card and you don't have a business card, to me, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to project that confidence that it doesn't matter if I don't have a business card or not. Whereas if you have it in your head, that's important that you don't have a business card, there's going to be something that they pick up on because it's just communication is just energy. So as much as possible, don't worry about those kind of things and just really understand how do I get comfortable with the meeting number one, the meeting number two, the elevator pitch, and just go through that process. David and Rosa, by the way, I have probably 24 examples of advisors that don't have business cards, use Gmail address, don't have a website, and have six-figure relationships with CPAs. Yeah. David, as I work on CPAs to bring to the June Academy, I have an estate plan attorney friend partner who is well steeped in business owner trusts and succession planning. Would it be appropriate to invite him for June as well? Yeah, I think so. Attorneys can make great partners. There's some things that naturally make the CPAs better. Like if you were to take an A+ CPA and an A+ attorney, the CPA is going to be a better partner in the team-based model than the attorney is going to be for you. But that doesn't mean it's not worth having the CPA relationship or inviting them to June. I think it's a great idea. And if you've got that relationship, I would also try to work with that attorney to get introductions to other CPAs that you can form partnerships with. So have that attorney introduce you to 2 or 3 other CPAs that work with small business owners. Kurt, the problem is CPAs don't communicate. I understand where you're coming from with that comment. So I won't disagree with you, but I will say they will communicate given the right space in questions. Yeah. And the more conversations you'll have, the more you'll see that tendency to open up and communicate. And obviously some might not ever get there, and in which case they're probably not going to be a good partner for you in this model because there has to be two-way communication in any relationship. But I can tell you we're members of 3 different CPA training programs and groups, and honestly, there's probably twice as much activity in the accountant groups than there is in the advisor groups, which is surprising to a lot of people. But they do communicate. It's just oftentimes they have to do it in a context that they feel somebody's not trying to sell them something, and they feel like they don't have to be like this super person that knows everything. Jeremy, when is the next 2-day live meeting in San Diego? Yeah, no problem. So Jeremy, if you go to this page right here, eliteRT.com/training, go ahead and shoot it to everyone. You can scroll down once you get to that page, excuse me, and you'll see the advisory event is, I think, April 11th and 12th. Dan, any particular industry ideal for cost remediation? The more moving pieces, the better. So there are some industries that have like a lot of moving pieces. For example, a manufacturing company that's buying products, putting products together, shipping contracts, shipping products. So they've got shipping contracts, they got vendor contracts. They probably have a warehouse with a lot of employees, so they might have things like walkie-talkies or cell phone contracts. The more moving pieces, the better. Higher the revenue, the better for cost remediation. Okay. Cool. Awesome. Any last questions? Any last questions that you want me to tackle? I've been on for about an hour and 10 minutes, but I'm loving these. Are a lot of really good questions here. How long does the cost remediation process typically take? Completely depends on what we're looking at. So for example, merchant processing would be an example of something that we're going to typically look at. Merchant processing is analyzing the fees that the business is being charged to process credit cards. We actually used our merchant processing specialists, and I think we saved like 28, 29% on renegotiating the credit card fees. And it was 3 days. 3 days. I mean, it probably saves us certainly tens of thousands of dollars. Some of them are going to be a little bit longer, depending on whether a contract's being renegotiated or whether they are actually going out and finding a new vendor. An example of that is, like, let's say, for example, I used the manufacturing company earlier. Let's say they use UPS to ship all their products. Cost remediation specialist is going to take a look at their shipping contract. That company might say, UPS, either reduce my fees or I'm going to go to FedEx, and they're going to be like, yeah, well, you ship, 50 grand with us a year. That's nothing compared to us. I mean, compared to all of our clients. Whereas our specialist represents 1,000 clients of that size. So they're going to say, UPS, we have $50 million of shipping we do with you. Either reduce all of our clients' accounts by 20% in terms of expense, or we're going to take that 50 million to FedEx. So ideally and typically, because it's the quickest and the least amount of work, UPS just drops all of the costs. Sometimes though, there's no wiggle room there, so they have to move from UPS to FedEx, and then that would take a little bit longer. How do you find that franchises also benefit from cost remediation? I only ask because there are some expenses that must incur through the franchisor. GNC comes to mind, and I have a client who owns a store but could use some help. Yeah, that's a good one. So typically what is going to happen in part of that free analysis, and by the way, for anybody on the line, cost remediation is just one example of dozens of different strategies and different specialists that you have the ability to work with. But as an example, so in a scenario like this, our cost remediation specialist initially is going to want to see what's called a trial balance. That's going to show the breakdown of the company's expenses. He's then going to look at that trial balance and say, either no, not enough expenses or not enough things that I can renegotiate. Like for example, maybe that specific contract is mandated by the parent company that all franchisees have to use this company, in which case we can't get in there unless we're talking with the parent company. That's going to change all of the relationships. But he's either going to look at it and say, not enough meat on the bones there in order for me to save the money, or, yep, here, I think I could save money here, here, and here. I don't think I can do anything with this or this. Out of this, I think I'm going to be able to save 30% here, 15% here, 24% there. That would be a total savings of X amount per year. And in order for me to do that, ultimately it's going to cost X. So that's all we have to do, Rosa, is we get a trial balance of the major expenses from that owner that you're referring to, your client that owns the GNC franchise. And then we would send it to cost remediation specialist. They'll do a free analysis and they'll let you know what they can save and what the cost of that would be. But I would really encourage you, if you are thinking about a specific client, don't just go to them with the cost remediation. Go with the client information questionnaire, because if they own a franchise, likely they've got a lot more moving pieces than just the expenses. We can also probably do some tax mitigation. We can do some business planning, some financial planning, you know, all types of different strategies. If the fees are taken from the savings, does that mean that the reduction will happen the following year? The fees are taken from the savings, and whether or not they happen the following year, typically they do happen more than just 1 year. Usually it's like, it's negotiated in the contract up front, but typically it's, you know, anywhere from 18 months to 36 months. And then the client keeps this 100% of savings after that. And for any of the advisors on the line, as long as you can accept referral fees, you get a portion of the fee that is charged by the cost remediation specialist. And if you want to know what that is, just look in week 8. All of the specialist referral fees have been negotiated for you already. You can take a look in week 8. Okay. All right, very good. Good. Great questions. Thanks so much, everyone. I really appreciate all of the feedback, all the questions, comments today. I hope these calls are helpful. I look forward to seeing any questions over the weekend in the Facebook community, and also seeing a number of people in person in the coming weeks at the Elite Advisor Academy. That's it for today. Bye for now.